Hello, Craig.
Non, là, plus bouton. Non, celui-là.
Vas-y, fais-le.
Yeah,
Fais-le
this
toi.
one.
Non.
Ah.
Non, fais-le
Yes.
toi, Marie.
Et là, il faut lui écrire.
Fais-le toi.
Craig. Craig. Craig, bonjour.
JMJ.
How are you? Good.
Enchanté, bonsoir.
Bonsoir. How are you? Good to
I
see
am
you
very
again.
good. I am calling from a very rainy London.
Yeah, the same in Paris.
Tout le monde.
Exactly.
Well,
So
it's
I'm
very
happy
nice to
to
see you again, sir.
I'm happy to join everybody for this exercise and talking to you, Craig, spending this moment together.
Well, it's a pleasure to be talking to you, Jean-Michel, and welcome to all the fans from around the world who are joining us. My name is Craig McLean. I'm a journalist in London. I've had the privilege and the honor of interviewing Jean-Michel a few times, and it's always been a treat for my heart and my brain. He fills me with good ideas and great music and is always innovating. And this Versailles 400 album project and film is no different. Yet again, you are changing the boundaries of what we expect from a concert movie, from a live album, from new technology. So, merci, monsieur.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comment.
So everyone who's listening and watching, we have an hour with Jean-Michel. You guys have been sending in questions by the hundreds, if not the thousands. And I have picked some of the best ones to ask Jean-Michel on your behalf in a little while. But I thought I'd begin by asking some myself, just to warm us up.
Cool.
Well, the simple question, Jean-Michel, if I may, what is the genesis of the Versailles 400 project in terms of the location and the anniversary, first of all?
Actually, I've been asked to do a concert for celebrating the 400th anniversary of the Chateau of Versailles. And it came with the idea that we were at Christmas and an outdoor concert was not necessarily appropriate. And also I did it already a few years ago. And then I got the idea to do something slightly different, being inside and going into the Hall of Mirrors, what we call in French the Galerie des Glaces, and to create with this extraordinary location, to create a kind of game with mirrors in the real world, and also mirrors could be a kind of series of gates to go to the virtual world by actually staging a project which could actually happen in the real world, in the Galerie des Glaces and the Hall of Mirrors with a real audience, and then at the same time, through my avatar, being able to do a kind of mirror concert in a virtual hall that I would that I have built, thinking in terms of the look of a kind of a Tron 2 type of type of environment, electric blue and gold, and actually what was quite inspiring and the idea I've got was most of the time when you do something in VR, you try to copy the reality. What I did in that case is actually I started from the idea I had in the virtual world and trying to copy in the real world in terms of lights and ambience and design what I was conceiving in the VR. And for that, as lots of fans and friends are aware of, I'm always very close to the design of my projects. And in that case, I used for one of the first time AI AI algorithm to create an all visual environment for the VR gallery, but at the same time using elements of this AI design I conceived into the vertical video screens I had on each time of the gallery of the real hall to create this kind of passage and links between the VR world and the real world. So it was quite an exciting project, quite an ambitious one also, because what made the whole thing quite challenging, I would say, is actually the fact that we had to be live the night of Christmas Day, and we were allowed to load in only the 24th, 24 hours prior to the live moment. And that was quite challenging, as you can imagine. And I really conceived then this project on three levels: the live gig for the live audience, the VR gig for digital twins of an audience in the VR gallery, and most important to my mind was to create a film, the live broadcast, but beyond the live broadcast, what I've done in January and being ready for this moment, to create a real film project which could actually encapsulate both worlds and the whole project. For me, the real concept is actually based on the live album, and the music is the film that I actually finished in January to give justice to this idea, based to the original idea, to fully answer to your question, to create this kind of fluid passage between the live situation and the VR one.
That's an epic project, and you're doing all sorts of things that have never been done before, Jean-Michel. When did you begin this? How long did it take? And what were the key challenges you faced in the early days of building this project?
And the main challenge was time, as you said, was actually lack of time. Because as you know, when you are dealing with a state for an official project, everywhere, it's the same thing in any country. It's not proper to France or UK or China or whatever. It's always slow. People are slow making decisions, having authorizations, permissions. So that was the main challenge for not only for me, but also for the whole team being involved. So that was the main challenge. The other one was to be able to share with the team the global vision, because I realized, especially for this project, that I was the only one to get the full picture, and then to create an harmonious link, I would say, between the film crew, between the VR crew, between the live crew also being involved in the load-in. That was quite difficult, because we had to rehearse somewhere else, of course, because we were not allowed to go, as I said, to the chateau before 24 hours before. So we had to recreate not the decor, but in terms of space at the scale one, what the Hall of Mirrors was. With another difficulty was the fact that because the Hall of Mirrors is very long and quite narrow, we decided to put the stage in the middle. And that was another difficulty, because I didn't want to turn my back to one side all the time. So I had to then to prepare the gig and to actually put my set of instruments more or less as to double it, and then playing from one side to another. So I had to practice in a fairly different way than what you're doing, what you are doing in the situation on stage, where you actually basically facing one side with the audience. That I had to actually being a little bit schizophrenic by turning one side to another, and instead of being a bit mechanical, that okay, one track would be on one side, the other track would be on the other side. I mean, try to be through a track to move from one side to another. So that was an unusual exercise, I would say.
The Palace of Versailles is obviously hugely important to French history and culture, but to the whole world. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What precautions, shall we say, did you have to take to not damage the palace? Or, as one of the fans, NA Live has asked, did you have any concerns about endangering the delicate interior with booming bass?
So, this is a very interesting question. We had, of course, lots of limitations, and people were looking at us with big glasses, you know. And what was absolutely amazing is actually, from the beginning, I succeeded to create a real good relationship with the people of the chateau. And by explaining them and sharing from day one exactly what the project was about, and also listening to the limitations. And but we ended with a fairly ambitious production by having even some what we call cable cam, sky cam, in between the chandeliers of the Hall of Mirrors, which was absolutely inconceivable 3 months before. And then by explaining what we were going to do, and having a very high level type of technicians, we then step by step convinced them that it could be possible. With another level of difficulty was the fact that we were talking about bank holiday, probably the most the most of the bank holiday situation, where Christmas time, right? So the people being involved that day were not the people used to be in charge of the castle the rest of the year. So it was adding another layer of difficulty. To answering directly to the audio and to the bass frequencies, at the beginning, my idea was to do a silent concert with headphones, and to avoid any kind of problems. And then we realized that with Wi-Fi, and it was a bit of a problem. Then we said, okay, because the gallery, the Hall of Mirrors, is pretty narrow, we said, okay, we are going to divide the whole length of the hall like a series of big living rooms. I'm saying by this, instead of having a big subwoofers on each side, I mean a series of smaller PA systems all along, and just delaying slightly then from one to each other, and it worked very well. So we had a fairly strong sound, with fairly rich low and bass and low frequencies, without harming anything, by just the sound engineer also is a very talented Christophe Dupin, was able to with his team to actually delay the bass frequencies, the low frequencies, a little further away from a distance from the box themselves. So actually to avoid to affect any kind of mirrors and windows and all that. And what was quite amazing, even during the concert, you had absolutely no vibrations and nothing. And that was also one satisfaction about the project. Is actually technically we try to respect of course the site. But talking about the safety limits, the main thing was actually they had to install plastic carpet, in a sense, an alley of half a mile from the gate of, because the castle is so big, from the entrance to the stage, before we could install any and load in any fly case, and that just this exercise took 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours.
Wow. Incredible. The lucky people who were able to attend the concert on Christmas Day were instructed to dress in black and red. Why was that?
Yeah, it was actually it came from the idea that I wanted to have on the VR world to avoid any Campbell soup banana look, for Christmas. So I said, okay, it could be quite cool to ask the avatar to dress in a kind of strange party time, like Family Adams or Adams Family or Tim Burton type of mood, and say, okay, black and red could be quite fun. And then because of that, we asked in the real world for people to copy the avatars and also coming with in black and red as well. And it worked quite all right by the end of the day, or by the end of the night, I would say rather.
You opened your set with a cover, if you like, J.B. Lully's Marche pour la Cérémonie des Turcs. Now, he was the most important composer in the court of Louis XIV. That's as much knowledge I have of that music. For anyone who's watching who don't have musical knowledge that goes far back as 400 years, can you tell us about the importance of that piece of music and why you wanted to open your sets with it?
Okay. For a few reasons. The first one is actually because Lully, this classical French composer, was the main composer of the 17th century at the beginning of the Chateau de Versailles. And he actually revolutionized quite a lot the position of the orchestra on stage by being quite obsessed by exploring immersion, sense of space, which was quite linked to the idea of exploring immersive sounds and immersive worlds with VR. So I said there is a link there. And also I said it could be quite fun also to, I always loved Walter Carlos, Wendy Carlos, not Switch on Bar, yes, Switch on Bar, but the Clockwork Orange soundtrack. And I said it could be quite fun to create a kind of link by making an electronic arrangement of this classical piece a la Clockwork Orange. And I had a lot of fun to do it by using vocoder sounds and something that which could actually create a link between the 17th century and the 21st century.
Okay, and to bring it up to the 21st century, you also played your most recent single, the new version of Epica et Oxygène, which originally was in a car commercial, but then you have worked it in again. Why was it important for you to have that represented in the set also?
I think that came from the idea that I wanted to inject, because it was Christmas time, to inject and to play some, I would say one of the most popular songs of my catalog, of my work. And I said that it could be fun to introduce Oxygen 4 in a different version by probably doing a kind of mashup between one of my most recent work, which is from Oxymore, my last album, and doing a kind of morphing between one of the first song of my catalog and one of the last and the last one, and to get this kind of encounter between Epica, one song of the Oxymore, and Oxygen 4, and to create something which could be a kind of opening, and that was the idea behind that. And actually, because I was working on this project for my partnership with Renault, I said that could be interesting to keep this idea and creating a specific version for the gig.
Okay. The rest of the set, obviously you have dozens, if not hundreds of tracks to choose from. How did you go about working out which tracks and pieces of music would work in this venue? What dynamics, shall we say, did the songs were required of the songs that maybe would not be normally required in a concert?
Yeah, actually, I started by the idea of the visual. I mean, I have to explain a little more about the idea of the visual. I spent almost 2 weeks by creating lots of images using a stable diffusion algorithm of artificial intelligence, and I wrote lots of prompts to create a kind of scenario, a script from the beginning to the end, integrating lots of different elements. We were Christmas time, so I wanted to use some warm colors and warm graphics. Also, create a link between the gold, all the golden decor of the Hall of Mirrors, and also creating a mood between, I would say, between Tron, as I said, and Tim Burton, and Final Fantasy also, and creating kind of strange, not really dark, but yeah, in a sense, a bit dark, but not scary. And I think that was really the beginning of the concept. So I put all these graphics all along, and then I said, okay, and then I choose some songs of my catalog, I would say, to build the music in function of that, and also by choosing tracks which could also express what I'm talking about, with I would say something which could be also quite melodic, probably less experimental than my recent work, such as Oxymore, for instance, and also play. I wanted to integrate some songs that I didn't play for quite a long time, but it seemed to be appropriate. You know, it's quite interesting. You know, the idea of it's a very interesting question. How do you build a set list? And it's a mixture of it's quite a mystery. Suddenly, it's I take I take few songs, and then by eliminating some of them, suddenly you create a kind of spine for the project. It's I don't know, I don't exactly know how I'm building this, and that after a while I say, that works. This works, and maybe sometimes you change the order of one song, and suddenly you create a kind of overall meaning, I would say. You know what I love in instrumental music, apart from the fact that you have no lyrics, so you're not trapped by a series of stories, of moods. You can create a total different approach in terms of the progression. It's a total different thing as building a track list made of songs with lyrics. When you don't have lyrics, you can actually create something that which could, by the end of the day, become the soundtrack of the story or the movie that the audience can build during the gig.
Right. Thank you. You mentioned the visuals there, Jean-Michel. There was a specific question from one fan, Marco Blom. He said, what is the Versailles 400 cover picture about?
Okay. It's one of my favorite, first of all, it's one of my favorite visuals I produced for the project. And I have to explain how I did this. You know, dealing with AI at the moment is dealing with what we call prompts, words, and then I sometimes had prompts of 2 pages. And then I thought about for this result, what was a bit unexpected, but more or less what I wanted to create. I wanted to create a link with the fantastic innovation moments that which happened at the beginning of the Chateau de Versailles, where you had there the first solar panels. They were like in lead, like a big ball of copper, taking and trapping the energy of the sun and to warm a bit part of the castle. You had the first robots, the wooden automats, and also you had the first space machine created by one French guy called Montgolfier, the Montgolfier, as we said, the hot air balloon. So I said that could be interesting to have the image of a hot air balloon, but made of copper, made of gold, and also making it like a character with eyes. And so mixing also the idea of the watchers of equinox and also some sci-fi atmosphere such as the movie Oblivion, for instance, also, where you have this kind of long and very high architecture. So I mixed all this in the prompts, in different prompts, to achieve this. And then what's interesting is actually I got more or less what I had in mind. And the magic of AI, we were talking about lots of dystopic comments about AI, that is the end of creativity and all that. I don't think so. I think it's an extension of your imagination for artists. I mean, for lawyers or for businessmen or for the different sectors of society, it's a totally different issue. But for artists, I think it's a wonderful toy to hijack.
Yeah, I don't know if you had the chance, Jean-Michel, to see U2's show at the Sphere in Las Vegas, because they used AI for their visuals. The artist Marco Brambilla did a cascade of AI-generated Elvis Presleys, and in that Sphere venue, it fills the entire horizon with visuals. It's fantastic. Did you see that show? And if you didn't have to see that show, but I'm sure you've read about it, what do you think about what U2 have done? I think they're the only artists who come close to you in terms of reinventing what a concert can be.
Yeah, I think it's it's a sign of the times. Sometimes you at one moment artists are the reflection and the consequence of what's going on technologically or in terms of innovations. And I think that the Versailles concert is quite close in terms of concept of what has been done on the sphere or what has been done on a different part of the planet at the same time. I'm working at the moment. I worked recently in Le Mans, which is, everybody knows Le Mans because of the 24 Heures du Mans, 24 hours, the famous race. And they created a dome, an acoustic dome with lots of speakers, all in wood. It's different from the sphere, but also based on the same principle. And we can see that all over the world, there is this quest for introducing immersive elements into concerts and into performances. And this is, of course, what as you know, what I started quite a long time ago. I mean, I would say that even Oxygen was for me already an attempt to try to create an immersive musical concept, an immersive musical object. So actually, during all my life so far, I tried to explore all this kind of way to share with the audience some immersive feelings and emotions. And Versailles 400 for me is a real attempt for that. I mean, this is the reason why for me the film is probably the live album and the film are probably even more important than the live gig and the VR version. The fact that you can be you can explore you can explore actually the visual and the sound in an immersive way. We are working at the moment on a 4K and what we call DCP version of the film to create a more immersive version of large screens. And I'm really into this. I mean, all my next projects are really linked to the idea of IMAX project and also this kind of 360 projects. in which music is going to be the heart of that. I mean, when we are talking about immersion, everybody's talking about visuals. You know, it's very interesting. You were mentioning the Sphere in Las Vegas. Everybody is talking about the visuals. I hardly saw any comments on the sound. And and then we are talking about a concert. We are talking about a band, U2, and I mean, music should be the nucleus. And actually, it's like if the music was secondary in comparison of the visual experience. You know, I think for musicians, for artists, for the sound world, I mean, we have fantastic opportunities. We have fantastic opportunities with all these different tools, and we should never forget that the visual field is 140 degrees, where the audio field is 360 degrees for human being. And for human being, the first sense to be sensitive to immersion are the ears, not the eyes. And this is the reason why that is so exciting. These days are so exciting because actually we can explore a totally different approach for music composition and also for gigs, also for the audience.
Okay. I was at the Sphere, the first Sphere show, and just to reassure you, the sound was excellent. There are 160,000 speakers inside that venue.
Yeah, but you know, that doesn't mean anything necessarily. It's not the numbers. Sometimes less is more. I'm not saying anything, but you know what's great is actually what you're saying is which is great, and I'm sure that this I've not been there yet, but I'm sure that the sound was great. But I was just saying, if you see the reviews, everybody's talking about the immersion on the visual point of view, and very few are making comments on sounds.
C'est vrai.
That was
Ouais, c'est vrai. Okay, before we dive into the fans' question, there was one question that quite a few people asked, and that's what the situation is regarding your concert in Bratislava. What can you tell the fans about this idea, this event?
I mean, fans are used to be part of a kind of suspense, you know, because these kind of projects, outdoor projects, are always made of lots of different elements, discussions with the city, with different partners, and then we are still discussing about the logistics and the preparation, and if even when when we're talking together, we are still on the way to get all the permissions and to check all the right tools to be in time. So I keep my finger crossed because it's a project I really love. I think it's you know, I really would like to share this with the fans. I mean, you know, the time where you had huge outdoor concerts, that the one I did, and I think I said that with it's not arrogant, but actually I started a style of outdoor concerts for lots of different reasons. These days, after COVID, everything's changed in terms of environmental issues, in terms of safety also, and some concerts are difficult to be achieved these days in Paris or in New York or in London, or for obvious reasons. In countries such as Slovakia, which is the heart of Europe, a kind of quiet, peaceful country, I think we can still do something very unique for a unique event, because this event is based on a fantastic project called Starmus, and Starmus is a festival created 12 years ago on the initiative of Stephen Hawking, and it's the idea of a kind of Davos gathering scientists, astronauts, and musicians and artists. And the idea this year is actually to be much more ambitious, have a kickoff for this week of discussions and panels and to actually encapsulate and to illustrate and to embody the fact that this week is going to be dedicated to space, to science, and to arts. And then so of course a project like this needs a total understanding of the city, of the country, of the logistics, of sponsors, partners, and we're still in discussion. We are actually the next project, we have a big production meeting in Barcelona on Sunday, and then we'll be able probably to share much more news in the coming days, hopefully next week.
Okay, brilliant. So everyone, you heard it here first. News next week. Merci, monsieur. Okay, let's read some of these questions which have come in from all around the world, and there's messages flying up here from every country in the world, as far as I can see. People asking you to come to Iran, coming to Mexico, come to Bolivia, everywhere. But let's dig into some of the questions that were supplied earlier. Here's one from Lee Sainsbury. Can you tell us, please, about the lyrics you sing into the vocoder during the first track on the new album? Thank you.
So on the first track, the lyrics are just sounds, but it's what because it was not existing in the original track is an instrumental piece of classical music. But then I thought that it could be quite fun to have a kind of vocal and vocoder part, and then I use some phonemes and syllables, but of a kind of imaginary language. But actually, there is no proper meaning to the word. It's more I used my own voice more as an instrument, and creating this kind of mysterious language that could come from another planet or whatever.
Okay, merci. Here's a question from Jean Technic, I think is the name. Do you get more inspired by architecture when you perform these days?
I've always been involved and inspired by architecture. This is the reason why originally I worked. I thought about doing outdoor concerts.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Here's a question, a general question from Michel Espagueti. What do you do before and after a concert, Jean-Michel? I guess in terms of preparation and then relaxing.
Actually, a project like Versailles, I was on all fronts, and actually I didn't really slept before because the 24 hours was crucial. Every minute was so important because a decision being made couldn't be changed. So I had to be there for until the last minute. So basically it was quite strange because going on stage was just like a continuation of the past 24 hours. It was just the next the next moment, the next page, and then until the last minute we were still setting the lights and setting the sounds and actually in Versailles more than any other situation, this concert was the dress rehearsal, the first rehearsal, the dress rehearsal, and the last gig at the same time. So it was quite strange. And of course, after, the most tiring moment of a moment like this is when you have the party after, when you have lots of friends, lots of people, and you have to talk to lots of people, even people you don't really know. And I was stuck in one big room of the castle, so you had no escape. So I had to stop, and then we watched the live broadcast later on the big screen. So it was actually a long night of course, where we had lots of fun, but actually quite. I went to bed. I went to bed actually probably 36 hours after my last night. So I was pretty pretty exhausted.
I bet. Here's another question about the music you played from someone called 5i6n3. If you could have added more tracks to the show, which ones would you have played? Or maybe another way of asking us that, which was the one track that you couldn't fit in that you wanted to?
None of them. I think I think I could have played other tracks, but I think, as I said, I choose the tracks in function of a scenario. So the scenario, so the script for me was I had one beginning and an end, and then I covered the story with the tracks. So it was not like in a normal gig where I say, oh, we could play this or we could play that, and it was not like that. But I think that probably I would. I mean, some from some maybe one track from Magnetic Fields. I could have played one track of Zuluk and one track of Oxymore. I would three more tracks would have been okay for me and interesting to explore for this project, but that was not possible for the reasons I just explained.
Okay. A couple of different people asked this question, Jean-Michel. This one's from GLCO8284. Why did you put fade in and out on all of the tracks?
Well, I could what?
Fading in and fading out on the tracks. They were interested to why you did that on the album.
On the live album. Okay. Thank you for asking. You know, what is very frustrating these days, it seems that more we have new tools to share music with the audience, the less we are free to express ourselves in terms of formats. I explained that. You know, when you were doing, when you were just in front of vinyl, okay, you know that the best sound would be more or less 20 minutes per side. When you were the CD, so you go to 60, 70 minutes for a CD. But then you can divide whatever you want in this framework. Now you have to deal with the fact that you have streaming platforms, you have vinyl, you have CD eventually, you have, and then you have regulations and rules that are imposed to artists out of our control. I give you an example. Prince one day did Signs of the Times, and he said, okay, that is going to be one piece. It created a total chaos, and he had to resist. And then he had, and that was the first time, then to cut and to chop his piece of music that he conceived as a one track, because otherwise it wouldn't go into the algorithm, it would go into the system. I had the same problem all the time. For instance, Amazonia, that people, for some of my fans know, the recent album is for me, of course, one track of 52 minutes. And then the record company said, but you can't, because it doesn't fit into Spotify. I said, I don't care by the end of the day. I mean, they have to follow the artist. I'm not going to follow the system. But I had no choice. So I had to cut in a total artificial way Amazonia in 9 parts. What I did, and then you have to think about what is going on if you want to play as a continuous mix. I'm sorry, it's a bit long, but it's very important for people to understand. Yeah. Okay, if for instance you go to track 2 or to track 3, then you don't have you start by an existing level. So it's going to start by like this, and so what do? You say, okay, instead of in the case of Amazonia, because it was a kind of ambient mood, it was more or less okay. But in the case of Versailles 400, because you have sometimes you have the applause. So if you people want to have track 3 or track 4, you have to get a decent beginning. Then you say to the record company, then why not having special tracks like this? And then you have what we call a continuous mix. But you can't, because the record company or the platform will say, no, it's it's too expensive. It's creating a mess. You cannot do this because it doesn't fit into the algorithm. It's not, and ironically, at the moment, I think it's going to improve, but we're in a kind of chaotic situation where I would like to share my music in the way I conceived it, but I can't except if you do it by on a physical support such as CD or vinyl. Because as soon as you go to an algorithm, you're trapped with this idea that everybody should be able to be free to start track 3, track 4, and not necessarily thinking in terms of album. And you know, I think that is something that's going to change. Because when you see, for instance, TV series, a TV series is actually lasts for 10 hours. And some people, they spend their whole weekend to see an entire series. So the idea that people are able to focus less and less in terms of timing, of concentration and all that, I think it's bullshit. It's not true. It depends on what you want to express. It's not because the US business basically wants to create a format of 3 minutes or 2 minutes because in streaming platform you make more money and so on and so forth. That the idea of an album or the idea of creating tomorrow, if you want one song of 1 hour or 40 minutes or 2 minutes or 30 seconds, you should be free to do that. And this is the reason why that I'm sorry for my fans, for my audience, having this kind of stupid fade in, fade out between songs. It was the only way not to affect the fact that people would have this kind of frustration relationship with one track or the other. I constantly asking to Sony, my record company, say, okay, I don't care. Why not doing this project as an album? You take it or you don't. But for lots of different reasons beyond their power, for streaming platform, it's not possible because the system works by track philosophy or whatever we call it.
Well, that's a great insight into the ways that record companies think. Thank you, or don't think even. You mentioned the vinyl and CDs there. We have a question from Juan Ramon Mateos, and someone else asked this also. What would make you change your mind about not having a physical release for this project?
Again, matter of a system. I mean, today, if you want to release a vinyl, it takes at least 17 weeks. So,
wow.
So you do a live album. By definition, you cannot prepare the music and things 17 weeks before the gig. And after, you have to wait and to queue because you have lots of artists, because you have very few factories. And at least, for instance, I had the choice even to either to wait maybe until September to release the live album of something what happened 9 months before, or to release it earlier on, like it is, but only digital. So we are discussing at the moment maybe the possibility to release later on maybe the physical version of it. But you know, it's a strange moment. I think it's going to change all this because we are actually in the middle of a rather chaotic situation vis-à-vis the industry, where actually we are quite trapped into the with the limitations of an industry where you have to deal actually with I would say, mediums, which are not adapted to creators and to artists. And a lot of people are complaining about that, except people, I mean, just releasing song per song or 3 minutes and doing the pure pop format, commercial pop format. If you want to escape from that, then you have to fight against the system, and most of the time you can't, because it's something beyond your power, and even sometimes beyond your label, because your label understands what I'm talking about, but then they're trapped. So I hope that AI and robots will help us.
There's quite a few people asking this question. Paulette Nacho, Marjorie Quarillo, Ramello 72. Will you be involved in the Paris Olympic Games on any level this summer?
Not at all. I've been, when I saw the rather chaotic situation 2 years ago with my team, with Fiona and Marie-Laure and all my team, we said, okay, I've been involved indirectly in previous projects linked with the Olympics, and it's such a complex and complicated, and especially in my country, complicated organization, that you spend sometimes 2 years of your life just for something which is not exactly what you want to achieve. The fact that we should never forget that the Olympics are, before anything else, a sports event, where whatever you do on a creative point of view as an artist, for music, is just a small cherry on a big cake. And then it's just a matter of decision for an artist to say, do you want to dedicate 2 years of your life, when you can do lots of more exciting things, for a result which is going to be not forgotten, but maybe digested, just or forgotten, yes, after a few minutes or few hours, because the most exciting aspect of the Olympics are, of course, the sports and competition and all this.
Okay, thank you. Time for a couple final ones. There's lots of people asking about your future concerts, the future shape and direction of your concerts. Here's one from Jamie Ringwood. Is live, in person and VR together a plan for all your future concerts? Someone else is asking, will you just do a more regular concert tour? Can you give us any insight into any touring plans you may have beyond what may or may not happen in Bratislava?
Yeah, actually, okay, to cut the long story short, as an artist, I'm in like maybe some other artists have just a kind of format. They do an album, they do a tour, they do an album, they do a tour. I'm not working like this. I'm getting involved in a project because I'm interested by the project, not thinking that necessarily this project is linked to a tour or touring project. For instance, Oxymore was based on the idea of 360 degrees composition. Then I said, okay, it could be interesting to try to find a way to tour with a project like this. Then I realized that halls are not made for that. The system is not really made for that. It's very expensive to tour with 16 PA systems for a rather reduced, rather small audience. And we can understand that technically and financially it's almost impossible. Then it took me a time to explore this because I was interested. Then, because of the COVID, I've been heavily involved in VR. So I wanted to explore this. That takes time. And now with AI, I'm very interested by exploring on the visual point of view, and that is a very exciting medium for me. And then I'm now going back to think about putting together with my team, say, a new concept for a gig. What should be a gig in the 2024, 2025, 2026? Not repeating myself, but trying to find, like when I open doors on a live outdoor concert, what could it be? And I think the answer, and I'm quite excited by that, is actually in the middle of immersive sounds the sphere of Las Vegas, outdoor concerts, dealing with AI, and outdoor concert, doing big concert, maybe also a series of concerts very similar to a tour, but a world tour, in my opinion, at the beginning, at the moment, for me, seems a bit dated. I don't know why, but after COVID, I think something changed. And not changed in my mind, I think changed in society, where having a kind of format where you repeat in a rather mechanical way exactly the same thing everywhere. I don't know, I think it doesn't fit what I think the society is going through. I think that, but I'm very interested more than ever by also one-off event. I I already said this to my fans and to that I'm really interested by also trying to go in countries where nobody's going, like I don't know, North Korea, Iran. I mean, I know that lots of people are going to react in a rather negative way, maybe, but I think that you know, if I can just develop a little bit, you know, I think that I'm against all kinds of boycott. I think that it's stupid to, and it's even dangerous to think that not to think that people don't have the same freedom of expression of ourselves in their countries. Then deciding that as Western people, we are going to apply a kind of double punishment by saying, okay, on top of the fact that they don't have the same freedom of speech as ourselves, they are not going to have access to music, to movies, to literature, to all this. I think that is, we should, as my mom was saying, a big figure in the French resistance, she said, never mix an ideology, a system, and people. Two different things. And I think as artists, we should use our, and we should use music for musicians as a kind of Trojan horse to open doors on some territories. So it's something that, of course, on the way, if I have the opportunity to do this, I will, of course, I will do it. Apart from that, and to go back to a lighter aspect of gigs, I'm really interested by sharing with the audience this idea of immersion, sound-wise and on visual point of view. And I'm actually at the moment seeking lots of tools to try to share, to be able to share this as much as possible in a series of concerts going in all different countries. I know that a lot of fans are waiting for me, and I really appreciate, and I'm really grateful of that. And be sure that I'm working very hard to try to be able to soon to share what I have in mind with the largest possible audience and countries. But you know, as you understand, it's also a matter of economy to make it financially viable, and as usual, for artists to try to find the the magic the magic recipe to be able to be as ambitious as possible for the idea you have in mind, and to convince producers that it's financially viable.
We're running out of time now, but I'm going to ask one question for myself. Could you see yourself, Jean-Michel, playing at Glastonbury or Coachella, one of these big organized festivals?
Yeah, I mean, I played Coachella already just before COVID, and it was a fantastic experience. I would be happy to do it again. It's still part of, it's linked also part of the adequate production, and I would dream to, I would love to play Glastonbury one of these days. It's something that has not been for different reasons in terms of schedule and production. Possible yet, but of course that is something that I have in my calendar one day or the other.
Okay.
So thank you for asking.
We will send this message to Emily Evis, and maybe you can play next year.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for
Well,
passing the message over.
Thank you so much for your time, Jean-Michel. Would you like to end? Is it a message for, there's lots of fans are still sending in hundreds of messages and love hearts here. Do you have a final message for the fans, either with regards to this project or with regards to what you're doing next, or even just with regards to the passion that your fans clearly have for you and everything you
Yes,
do.
thank you for asking. I really would like to make a short comment. I really would like to thank all of you. I mean, with your messages, and I know the situation of the fan is a special one. It's a mixture of expectation, frustration, hopes, uh, and uh, and for an artist, it's always difficult to satisfy everybody because on one side you have people hoping that you will repeat what they've loved. For instance, people who loved Oxygen and Equinox, they are expecting that I'm going to repeat myself and duplicate this. If I do this, the same people will say it's the same thing as last time. And if I do something else, these people will be disappointed because they say, I don't recognize the JMJ I like and all this. So so I decided for forever not to think about all this. To say, okay, I'm following my way as an artist. Sometimes maybe I will lose or will disappoint some of my fans. I will maybe have new ones who was not partly interested for what I've done before, so on and so forth. Having said that, I must say that for me, my fan base is absolutely important. I follow you. I have a huge respect for all what you're doing, all what you're saying. And this project, for me, the Versailles project, I just would like to say that I'm, as an artist, very proud of this live album, very proud of the film, I've done. I put a lot of energy in it, which is not an excuse because you can put a lot of energy for 1 year and just uh, producing a piece of shit. So it's not an excuse. But the live album for me is a kind of I spend a lot of time to create new arrangements, to be faithful to the original version, but at the same time to create the warmth that the technology of today is allowing me. And I really realized that it could be fun also to revisit sometimes some existing stuff with the tools of today. For instance, it's going to be the 40th anniversary of Zuluk this year, and I really have the idea of maybe not everything, but some parts of it to not to remix them because I don't like the idea, but actually to make it maybe closer to what I had in mind when I first did it. So it's a continuous morphing into my own world that I want to share with my audience, and this movie also, this I call it a movie of Versailles 400. I know still there is certainly a lot of imperfection, but I'm really happy about this by this idea of mixing and morphing the real world and the VR world, not into a video game aspect, not into something artificial or fake, but I think trying to create this kind of fluidity I'm so interested by into exploring a real gig and a virtual one. So I really do hope that you will be able to share this feeling, and also, you know, in days where the economy of music and music industry is quite mysterious. You know, we put a lot of effort, we put some money, even my own, into the project of the film, and it's for free on YouTube. You know, it's something that even vis-a-vis my team and all that is a bit strange, but at least I'm happy to be able to share this project to the widest possible audience. And thank you in advance for not hating me too much for my coming projects. Thank you very much.
Bravo, monsieur.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
And thank you to be this brilliant master of ceremony you've been for 1 hour. I really appreciate it. Thank
Un
you.
plaisir. Plaisir.
Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Cheerio.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Il peut appuyer.
Faut appuyer quelque
direct là.